The War for Cybertron trilogy. An interesting toy line to say the least. It started off with Siege, which is full of cyber stylization and gritty damage detail that literally nobody asked for. It wasn't really for me, but there were a few good figures to come out of the line. Then we got Earthrise, subtitle, Playing It Safe. This was more my speed. I mean, of course it was. It's G1. However, my opinion on the line over time has soured greatly. Poor quality control, terrible distribution, and lazy rehash characters / lazy engineering were enough to make me weary of the upcoming third chapter, Kingdom. So here we are. Wave 2 of Kingdom has started to pop up in stores, and what do I think of it? So far it's actually been really great. I haven't been into Beast Wars for as long as the other aspects of the franchise, so this toy line is a great starting point for fans like me who haven't been collecting these characters for very long. All that long-winded intro was to say, Dino-Bot, the lad I'll be looking at today. Spoiler alert for the rest of the video, I'm absolutely smitten with this figure. Let's start off in Dino mode. After all, it is Beast Wars, right? No? Tough crowd. Anyways, let's stop beating around the bush. This mode has a lot of kibble. This is pretty much par for the course when it comes to beast modes, but I will say that I think the golden tits in the front of the Dino mode are really distracting from the fact that this is supposed to be a literal animal. Overall, I'll forgive it. I mean, have you seen the transformation from the show? And I thought G1 was full of bullshit. One thing I won't forgive, however, is the pink tip of the tail. Really? I mean, really? What was the point of this? Was it that hard to make the tail cover extend a bit further? The tip of the sword is even textured like the rest of the skin, so clearly there was an attempt to blend it in. But this is just abysmal. You can always just remove it from the cover and stick the cover back on, but that makes the tail a bit stumpy for my tastes, and then you just have this sword flying around with nowhere to put it. Speaking of the textured skins, in general, they tried to go with a realistic style to this beast mode, rather than the slightly cartoonish style from the show. Now I might be slightly biased, since I've always preferred a more realistic beast mode, but I actually prefer this to if they have tried to exactly replicate the designs from the show. It gives the toy line a distinct identity, rather than just being the masterpiece figures but smaller. Probably not a popular opinion, I know, but hey, this is my review. Overall, posability on the beast mode is good, but not great. You can get his shrimpy hands into some cool karate poses, but he can only move his legs from the knee down. His jaw can open and close to a satisfying degree, and I appreciate that they painted a tongue in there. Overall, the posability isn't amazing, but it's all that it really needed to be for a figure of this size. The transformation on this guy is fun. It's not too simple, but it's also not so complex that you have to keep referring to the instructions after the first time you do it. For me, the entire point of a transformer is the transformation. That's king. If the transformation in a figure isn't fun, the figure is essentially worthless to me. Suffice it to say, the transformation of this guy is more than satisfactory, and it brings me great joy to transform him back and forth. So now we're on to robot mode. What can I say? I love this thing. Dino-Bot has always been my favorite of the Maximal designs, and this toy captures it wonderfully at this scale. Look at that head sculpt. This head looks like it jumped right out of the cartoon. Something about the way the blue paint is textured makes it look exactly like a CGI model in real life to my eye. I also love how they've managed to incorporate the real Dino mode's head into the chest, while still maintaining the show-accurate, splayed head look. What clever engineering! Much better than the Masterpiece figure's faux head in my opinion. I will say he's a little proportionally wonky. His arms and shoulders are a bit too skinny for my taste, which makes his chest look a bit too puffy. It doesn't look terrible at first glance, but if you stare at it too long he starts to look really dumpy. The hands look strange too. They're way too big for his scrawny arms, but it serves the Dino mode, so it's not all bad. Also, there's the topic of the backpack. It really sticks out. It's unfortunate because from the front end, the illusion of a clean robot mode is held up, but as soon as you turn it even slightly, it's shattered. I forgive this slightly because given the budget, size class, and just general bullshittery involved with turning a robot mode into a semi-realistic animal, they're gonna have to make some compromises. Then there's the accessories. The tail shield looks fine for what it is, though I would have loved it if they could have implemented perhaps a spinning gimmick like on the Masterpiece figure. Then we get to the sword and just... why? Why did they make the sword hot pink? It was clearly more silver in the show. They didn't even make it chrome, so in certain lighting schemes, this sword looks straight up purple. And then there's the tip, which is textured to look like dino skin, which makes the sword look even more out of place. So yeah, the accessories on this figure are slightly lackluster, but despite all of my complaints, I think the robot mode's merits make up for the terrible sword and dull shield. Also, this figure is perfect to just pick up and whoosh around. almost like a classic He-Man figure. It takes me right back to being a kid and blooshing all my toys from the toy bin into each other. I'm sure kids will get their hands on this and have an amazing time. This figure just feels good, man. All the joints are nice and tight, and he has some serious range. There's a full 360 turn on the head. The shoulders are universal joints that allow for a wide range of movement. The elbows have just over 90 degrees of movement on a hinge, both ways. The wrists swivel, and they also rock back and forth, but that's more for beast mode. The hands open and close as well. There's a nice tight waist swivel, which is very satisfying to do. There's a thigh swivel and a 90-degree knee bend. The feet tilt forward, and they even have the trademark War for Cybertron ridiculously big ankle pivot. So overall, the posability on this guy is pretty stellar. The front tilt on the feet especially allow for some more dynamic poses. I wish we could have had slightly more bend in the elbows or a butterfly joint on the shoulders, but overall this level of articulation is more than appropriate for a Voyager class figure. Also just wanted to add that he looks amazing next to the rest of the Maximals so far. I can't wait for Kingdom Rhinox release to really round out my lineup and complete the set. Oh well, I guess I'll just have to settle for Generations Rhinox for now. So overall, what do I think of this figure? Well, his Dino mode is nice. A bit of a brick, but it does everything it needs to for a figure of this size. His robot mode looks absolutely stellar. It feels solid as hell, and despite some disappointing accessories, he has some amazing posability. Operating off of vibe, this figure is an absolute 10. But looking at all of his merits cumulatively, he's definitely not perfect. If you're a Dino-Bot fan, or a Beast Wars collector, this is an absolute must for your collection. If you're just getting into Beast Wars, this figure is a great starting point, just be aware of his flaws. So yeah, if I had to rate it, probably an 8 out of 10. Well, my time here has been brief, but I can't say it hasn't been fun. See you in the next review.